Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. I welcome you all to your next edition of the daily quiz. Let's begin the quiz for today with question number 1 on your screen. Consider the following statements with regards to the upper house of the Indian Parliament. Number 1. The Government of India Act of 1919 provided for a second federal chamber or the Council of States. Second, the members of the Rajya Sabha are elected by the members of the state legislative assemblies based on the proportional representation. Third, the Rajya Sabha exercises the ability to create new All India services under Article 312 by passing a resolution subject to support and voting by 2/3 of the members. Which of these given statements is or are correct? The correct answer here would be D. All the three given statements with regards to the upper house of the Indian Parliament, that is Rajya Sabha, are correct. As you know, it is also called the Council of States and it first came up officially under the Government of India Act of 1919. The members of the Rajya Sabha are elected by the members of the state legislative assemblies and the process involved is proportional representation, the same process that is used for president and the vice president elections as well. You know, Rajya Sabha has certain special powers like creation of all India services, like empowering the parliament to make a law on the state list also in the national interest. Also, removal of the vice president of India begins at the Rajya Sabha. These are some of the special powers that the Rajya Sabha has. The reason why we are discussing this question is because a member of parliament, that is Shri Manoj Kumar Jha, has written this editorial about the upper house, that is the Rajya Sabha, and its significance. This is in today's Indian Express newspaper. In this article, he talks about the special powers of the Rajya Sabha here and also how Rajya Sabha came into being. He also addresses the question and the discussion where many people criticize the existence and the significance of the Rajya Sabha, saying that it does not have a lot of powers. Next, question number 2. Consider the following statements with regards to the Indian government's commitments to fight against climate change. Number 1. A 75-day-long awareness campaign, Swachh Sagar Surakshit Sagar, has been launched on July 5. Second, a mobile app called Eco Mitram has been launched to spread awareness about the campaign and facilitate the registration of volunteers. Third, Goal 14 of the UN Sustainable Development Goals calls for the conservation and sustainable use of oceans, seas, and marine resources. Which of these given statements is or are correct? The answer here again would be D. All the three given statements with regards to the Indian government's commitments specifically to ensure that our waters remain clean are correct. The Government of India recently launched a 75-day-long awareness campaign called the Swachh Sagar Surakshit Sagar, calling for people across the country to register themselves as volunteers. The reason why we are doing this at such a fast pace is because it is a part of Sustainable Development Goal number 14, which talks about improving the life underwater. All the information that we are asking in this question can be seen in this article in the Indian Express, written by Shri Jitendra Singh, a union minister, where he talks about the commitments taken by the Indian government to ensure much cleaner Indian Ocean and to ensure that the Indian Ocean becomes plastic free. He also talks about various commitments taken by the Union Ministry of Environment, like banning of plastics, etc. He says that India is a part of many other nations that have come together at the UN forum to conserve and sustain our oceans and their resources in the long run. India is also part of High Ambition Coalition for Nature and Change, which was initiated at the One Planet Summit in Paris in January 2021. As you can see here, the target of this Swachh Sagar Surakshit Sagar initiative is to remove 1500 tons of garbage from the coast, which will be a huge relief for marine life and people living nearby this area. Next, question number 3. Consider the following statements with regard to India's Antarctic expeditions. Number 1. India maintains 2 research stations on the continent, Maitri, which was commissioned in 1989 at Shirmachar Hills, and Himadri at the Larsaman Hills. Second, at 14 million square kilometers, Antarctica is the 5th largest continent. Third, India had been a signatory to the Antarctica Treaty since 1983. Which of these given statements is or are correct? The correct answer here would be B. 2 and 3 are correct. The first statement is wrong because India right now has two operational missions in Antarctica, but the second one is actually not Himadri. Himadri is India's mission at the Arctic Circle. So this is at the North Pole. In the South Pole, that is in the Antarctic, the next mission or the second one that we have for India is actually called Bharti. So far, there have been three missions that have been set up by India in Antarctica. The third one being Dakshin Gangotri, which is not operational right now. So as far as the operational ones are concerned, we have only two. The Dakshin Gangotri one was a very short-lived mission. The Dakshin Gangotri mission was actually set up in 1989, but it got buried and was abandoned just the next year in 1991. Now, we only have two operational missions. Thus, the answer here would be B. The reason why we are discussing this question is because the Antarctic bill has been passed in the Lok Sabha. This is a bill which was under discussion for some months now. No amendments have been made to the bill as compared to the version that was introduced in the voice vote. India has been a part of the Antarctic Treaty for a long time. This bill aims to regulate the visits and activities to Antarctica and set the ground rules for any disputes that may come up from the people who actually take a visit to Antarctica. Next, question number 4. Consider the following statements with regards to Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, also called as IBC. Number 1. It lays down clear-cut and faster insolvency proceedings to help creditors such as banks recover dues and prevent bad loans, a key drag on the economy. Second, the distressed corporate debtors, those who are given the debt, are permitted to initiate the PIRP with the approval of half of the creditors to resolve their outstanding debt under the new mechanism. Third, unlike in the case of corporate insolvency resolution process, debtors remain in control of their distressed firm during the PIRP. Which of these given statements is or are correct? First, let me tell you what is PIRP. PIRP here stands for something called Pre-Packaged Insolvency Resolution Process. This is a process under which insolvency proceedings take place under the IBC. The correct answer here would be C. 1 and 3 are correct. Second statement is wrong because to initiate this process, not half, but actually 2/3 of the creditors would have to say yes. So only when 2/3 creditors say yes, only then the proceedings will go on and not just half. The reason why we are discussing this question is because of this article in the Indian Express again, where the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code has been discussed. It talks about a recent court judgment in India that can only further complicate the matters in the ongoing proceedings of insolvency. The article says that till now, to start the proceedings under the IBC, the financial creditors had to provide proof of the debtor's default. Once the adjudicating authority, that is the National Company Law Tribunal, was convinced of the default, the application was admitted. This was a much quicker process. But now a judgment has come in Vidarbha Industry Power Limited versus Axis Bank case, in which, as per the judgment, the National Company Law Tribunal also has to consider the grounds made out by the corporate debtors against admission on their own merits. So this actually provides some chances that the application may be rejected even if there is a default. So there is a discussion on this code now. Next is a previous year question from 2022. Consider the following statements. Number 1. The Constitution of India classifies the ministers into 4 ranks, which are Cabinet Minister, Minister of State with independent charge, Minister of State, and Deputy Minister. Second, the total number of ministers in the Union government, including the Prime Minister, shall not exceed 15% of the total number of members in the Lok Sabha. Which of these given statements is or are correct? The correct answer here would be B. Second statement is correct, the first statement is wrong because the classification of ministers that we have is not written in the constitution anywhere. It is based on parliamentary conventions that we have actually taken up from Britain. So it's a part of convention that it has been followed. It is not written in the Constitution of India anywhere. Thus, the second statement is true while the first statement is wrong. As you can see here, This parliamentary convention was developed in Britain, and that is how we also took it. Also, the word minister has been defined in the Salaries and Allowances Act of 1952, but nowhere in the Constitution. Next, we have a fact of the day, and today we will be discussing about a very interesting change of law that has happened in the state of Goa. Now, Goa, 3 years back, introduced an amendment bill under which it said that a person will be arrested if they change their name without following the proper procedure as per the law. Now they have made it even stricter for people to go ahead and change their name. Now, to change someone's name, the person will need to have their birth registered in Goa, and either of a parent or a grandparent must be born in Goa. Not just this, now the power to permit the name changes, which were earlier given to registrar or the chief registrar of the state, have now been given to civil judge junior division or a district judge, meaning that now judiciary will have the power and not the government. Now, why was there a need to do that? There were many allegations that people just are changing their names or surnames just by advertising in the newspapers. People are changing their names just to take benefits under different government schemes or to buy or inherit land or property, and they're even using this to apply for Portuguese passports. That is why there has been a requirement and a demand for a long time that people are misusing this provision, and we should make it more difficult to change the name. Goa Chief Minister recently said in the assembly, no other government had even thought of this. Many Nayars had become Nayak, but now only those whose parents or grandparents are born in Goa will be able to change their name. Again, this is done to stop the people from misusing this provision, changing their names and taking advantage of the government schemes and other provisions. This is it for today's daily quiz video. Thank you so much for watching.